Police are getting closer to determining a motive for the mass shooting inside a New York City office building. Officials say a lone gunman killed 4 people, including a police officer. Another man is in critical condition. Surveillance video shows the suspect walking into the building with a high-powered rifle held by his right hand. And several high-profile companies, including Blackstone, the National Football League, have offices there. Mayor Eric Adams told CBS Mornings a short time ago that the suspect may have been targeting the NFL.
He did have a note on him. The note alluded to that he felt he had CTE, a known brain injury for those who participate in contact sports. He appeared to have blamed the NFL for his injury. The NFL headquarters is located in the building at 345 Park Avenue. From our preliminary investigation, he took the wrong elevator bank up to the NFL headquarters. Instead, it took him to Rudin Management, and that is where he carried out additional shootings and took the lives of additional employees.
A lot of interesting information there. CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano joins us now from near the scene. Good morning to you, Lilia. Tell us more about this note and how exactly investigators are trying to retrace the suspect's steps.
Well, Errol, what we are learning this morning, as you heard from Mayor Eric Adams, is that they're getting closer to a motive. That in this note that they found, of course, they have not released the note, some grievances where he may have been blaming the NFL for what he perceived to be CTE, a brain injury. We know about the suspect just from online profiles and videos that he played high school football, and there are some highlights from his high school football career. We don't know how far that went, but we know that he grew up in Southern California, started the journey in Las Vegas where he was. In fact, we saw, which is very interesting given the documented evidence of mental health illness that we heard from the New York City Commissioner yesterday, that despite having mental health issues and well-documented issues, that he had a gun permit, a concealed firearms permit. And of course, that would have allowed him to buy the weapons, not just the military-style rifle with which he went into this building. You can still see, I don't know if you can see it on my shot because it's a little bit far, but the shattered glass from when he went into the lobby and started shooting. Then, according to Mayor Eric Adams, he may have been wanting to get to the 5th floor where the NFL headquarters were, but got into the wrong elevator, ended up in the 33rd floor, and ended up killing a victim up there in that 33rd floor. He crossed various states. He was in Vegas, he was in Colorado, Nebraska. It all started on Saturday and finally arrived in New York after he was last spotted in New Jersey 2 hours before the shooting. Landed here just before 6:30 p.m., rush hour, broad daylight as it is summer, and just walked into that building and started shooting.
Yeah, there's still a sense of shock in the city. We're within the first 24 hours of this, so all this information is new, and you wonder if he had mental health issues, how does that square with such premeditation that would be necessary to plan a cross-country trip and do this? So there's so many questions about him. What are we learning about the multiple victims of this shooting?
Well, the first victim who was named by police is NYPD officer Didarul Islam of the 47th Precinct. We know that he had been in the NYPD since 2021, that he is an immigrant from Bangladesh, that he has 2 young sons, and that his wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. We've also learned from Blackstone that one of the victims killed is Wesley Lepotner, I don't want to get the name wrong, Wesley Lepotner. She was an executive with the company. She had worked before that at Goldman Sachs. She was, according to her LinkedIn profile, graduated summa cum laude from Yale University in 2003 and was recently voted in the Board of Trustees of the Met Museum here in New York. The company, Blackstone, described her as somebody who was brilliant, passionate, generous, and deeply respected. We are waiting to confirm other victims. We also know that one of the victims who was not killed but is in stable condition at the hospital is an NFL employee, according to NFL executives.
Wow, so much heartbreak, and I think a security guard also in critical condition. We'll keep looking into this hour right now and throughout the day. Lilia, thank you so much reporting there on the scene. We want to jump now to retired FBI Special Agent Mary O'Toole. Mary, you're the Director Director of the Forensic Science Program at George Mason University. Good morning. Great to have you back with us. Let's start with mental health and CTE, since these are our early clues as to what was happening with the suspect. The mayor mentioned he may have had 2 prior psychiatric holds, and this note mentions CTE. What does that mean for what detectives will be looking into now?
That's a great question. So what they'll be looking into is what was the basis for the mental health hold that he had, I think, in 2022 and then last year in 2024. What happened that precipitated that, and what were the behaviors that were associated with that? Was he threatening suicide at that time? Was he threatening harm to other people? Was he suffering from a severe depression? Usually a commitment is made if a person poses a threat to self or others. So understanding that becomes important. CTE is a progressive brain disease, which is diagnosed at the time that someone has died, and there's an autopsy that is done to determine that. But the two have to be considered separately, because you can have a mental health crisis and not be suffering from CTE. So that distinction becomes extremely important. So law enforcement will understand what it was in his background to better capture, to understand what might have led up to yesterday. And was he thinking clearly? Just because you have a mental health commitment for a crisis in your life does not mean that you cannot think and plan ahead to commit a crime.
That's a very, very good point. And as far as we know, he had no relationship with the NFL. It's still very early. We're in the first day of when this has happened. But how will the NFL now work with the NYPD in determining if they were in fact targeted? Because it would be quite a serious escalation for this well-known organization.
Definitely. So what the NFL will be doing is they will be going through all their communications, whether it's by email, text, by phone, whatever it is, to see if this individual, the shooter, had any contact with them. And if so, what was that contact? So that becomes very important, and they'll be able to establish that by talking to employees and simply going through all their communications. But I think what's interesting, and law enforcement is thinking about this, when the shooter entered the building, he got onto the wrong elevator. That could suggest that he had not done a surveillance of the building before he went in to carry out the shooting. In other words, in other cases of shootings, the shooter will go into the school, to the place of employment, whatever it is, and check it out to make sure they know how to get in, they know how to get out, they know where they're going. That may not have happened here, which makes sense when you look at where he had to travel from in order to get into New York City. May not have had time to do that.
We just saw some footage of police surrounding a vehicle that was believed to be tied to the suspect. And as you mentioned, only certain elevators go to the floor, which gets to the NFL offices. He just happened to take one that didn't. And so that may suggest a lack of preparation. Heartbreaking all around, though. Mary O'Toole, we appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you.